I thought I was just hustling at night, delivering food and packages to pay rent, but one night, flashing blue lights pulled me over and I realized the bag in my trunk wasn't what I thought. I wasn't just a delivery guy anymore. I was a suspect. I was 24, broke, and drowning in bills. My day job at a crappy electronics store barely covered rent, so I picked up gig work as a night courier. You know, those apps where people need last-minute deliveries, food, packages, even random Craigslist pickups. It wasn't glamorous, but the money was better than nothing. Most nights were uneventful. Empty highways, podcasts blasting, a cup of stale gas station coffee keeping me alive. I actually liked the quiet, but every time I pulled into a sketchy address, a small part of me wondered, what the hell am I carrying this time? The company didn't ask questions, neither did I. That was the deal. One Thursday night in late October, the order seemed normal enough, a pickup from a storage unit just outside downtown Seattle. The app pinged, priority delivery, handle with care. It was heavier than usual, a duffel bag with no label. I remember thinking, weird. No sender's name, no receipt. But hey, $40 for one trip. I wasn't about to complain. The bag smelled faintly of leather and something chemical. I shrugged it off. I was tired. Rent was due. I tossed it in my trunk and hit the GPS. The delivery address was a suburban neighborhood 30 minutes away. Halfway there, I noticed headlights tailing me closer than usual. First, I thought it was just some asshole driver. But then came the sirens, red and blue, flashing like fireworks in my rearview mirror. Shit, I muttered, pulling over to the shoulder. My heart pounded like a drum solo. Two cops approached, flashlights slicing through the night. One tapped on my window. License and registration. I handed them over, trying to act casual. Is there a problem, officer? He leaned in, eyes darting to the back seat. Step out of the vehicle. Now, if you've never had that happen at midnight on a dark road, you don't know fear. Every instinct screamed to run, but my legs felt like cement. I stepped out, palms sweating, popped the trunk. The second cop ordered. I froze. The bag. Is there an issue? I asked, voice cracking. Trunk. Now. I obeyed. The trunk lifted with a metallic groan. The duffel sat there, looking suddenly more sinister than ever. The first cop unzipped it. Inside wasn't clothes or electronics. It was jewelry. Dozens of velvet boxes, watches, gold chains, even stacks of cash rubber banded together. It looked like a pawn shop had exploded inside that bag. The cop's jaw tightened. You want to explain this? My stomach dropped to my shoes. I swear, it's not mine. I'm just delivering. Delivering stolen property? He cut me off. I stammered. I didn't know it was stolen. The second cop smirked. That's what they all say. Handcuffs clicked around my wrists before I could process what was happening. Cold metal, sharp against my skin, my whole world tilted sideways. I tried to protest, yelling about the app, showing them the delivery order on my phone, but the cops weren't buying it. One of them said, "This drop spot matches a burglary case we've been tracking for weeks. You're looking at serious charges, kid." They shoved me in the back of the cruiser. My throat went dry. I wasn't a criminal, I was just some broke guy trying to pay rent. But in that moment, it didn't matter what I knew. To them, I was just another thief caught red-handed. The ride to the station was a blur of panic. My mind kept replaying the moment the trunk opened, like a nightmare stuck on loop. I thought about my mom back home in Portland, the way she'd say, "You always find trouble, don't you?" I thought about my landlord, who wouldn't care if I was in jail, he'd still kick me out. By the time we pulled into the precinct, I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. They booked me, fingerprinted me, took my mugshot. That's when reality really hit. I wasn't just unlucky, I was screwed. Sitting in a holding cell under buzzing fluorescent lights, I kept replaying the choices that led me here. Why didn't I check the bag? Why didn't I ask questions? Because I needed money, that's why. Because the world doesn't care if you're broke, it just chews you up anyway. I didn't know it yet, but that night was only the beginning. Now imagine what happens next. But before that, smash that like button and hit subscribe, cause the craziest part is just getting started. The holding cell smelled like sweat, bleach, and despair. Metal benches lined the wall, and a single flickering light above buzzed like it was mocking me. I sat there with my head in my hands, trying to convince myself this was all a mistake, that any minute now someone would walk in and say, "Sorry kid, wrong guy, you're free to go." But that minute never came. Instead, after what felt like hours, a detective walked in, mid-40s, sharp suit, tired eyes. He carried a manila folder like it contained the fate of the world. He didn't introduce himself, just sat down across from me in the interrogation room they dragged me into and flipped the folder open. "You're Daniel Harris, 24, address on Lakeview Apartments, no priors," he read out loud, like he already knew the script. Then he looked at me. "So tell me, Daniel, how'd a guy with no record end up driving around with 50 grand in stolen jewelry?" My mouth went dry. I told the officers I didn't know what was in the bag. I was delivering it. "It's gig work. I can show you the app." He leaned back, unimpressed. "The app? Right. You think the people who robbed 3 houses last week were dumb enough to leave their fingerprints on a bag and call Uber for criminals?" The way he said it made me want to crawl out of my skin. "I don't know those people," I insisted. "I swear, I just got the order. They pay us to deliver. We don't ask questions." The detective tapped the folder with his pen. "Here's the problem, Daniel. The house this bag was headed to, we've had it under surveillance. Known fence. We were hoping to catch the guy supplying him. And instead," he gestured at me, "we got you." My stomach twisted. "So what happens to me?" He leaned back. "That depends. You either talk and help us, or you're looking at years inside." I swore I knew nothing, just a courier hustling for rent. But he didn't buy it. They let me stew for 2 days before Chris bailed me out. My account on the delivery app? Suspended. My only job gone. That night I dug through my delivery history. For weeks I'd been running shady priority jobs, storage units, warehouses, empty houses. I realized I'd been their mule all along. The next day, I dragged Chris back to one of the pickup spots. We waited. Soon enough, a black SUV rolled up. 2 guys hauled out bags like nothing happened. Watching them, my chest burned. They'd set me up, almost ruined my life. And in that moment, I stopped feeling like a victim. I wanted payback. I barely slept after that night. My head was buzzing, replaying the scene of those guys unloading bags like it was just another Tuesday. To them it was routine. To me, it was my entire life burning down. Chris kept saying, "Man, just walk away. This isn't your fight." But it was. It had become my fight the second the cops slapped cuffs on me. So we planned a stakeout. Nothing fancy, just me, Chris, and his beat-up Honda parked across the street from that storage unit I delivered to more times than I could count. We sat there with cold coffees, watching shadows move. Hours went by. At first, it was boring, like maybe I was just paranoid. But then, just after midnight, a van pulled up. No logos. 2 guys hopped out, one tall and thin, the other short and built like a pit bull. They worked fast, hauling duffel bags from the van into the unit. My chest tightened. Same bags. Same damn bags I'd carried without asking questions. Chris whispered, "Dude, this is huge." I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and snapped a few photos. Blurry, but good enough to prove I wasn't crazy. But then something happened that I didn't expect. Another car pulled up. Sleek, expensive, tinted windows. Out stepped a man in a suit, looking way too polished for a midnight drop. He shook hands with the pit bull guy, handed him a thick envelope, and left as casually as if he'd just bought groceries. I looked at Chris. "Tell me I didn't just see that," he muttered. "Bro, you're in over your head." I knew he was right, but I also knew I couldn't stop. The next day, I took those photos to the detective who'd grilled me before. He looked through them without showing a single emotion, then slid the phone back to me. "Not bad," he said, "but you think this makes you some kind of hero? These guys don't play. They'll eat you alive if they find out you're watching." I clenched my fists. "I just want my name cleared," he sighed. "Then keep watching, but you keep your mouth shut until I say otherwise." That was it. No protection, no safety net. Just me, a pissed-off delivery guy, and a mess bigger than I could imagine. A few nights later, Chris bailed on me, said he couldn't risk getting involved any deeper. I didn't blame him, so I went back alone. I parked farther away this time, engine off, heart pounding. Midnight rolled around again, and the routine repeated: van, bags, exchange. But this time, I saw something new. One of the guys opened a bag, just for a second, and inside wasn't jewelry, or cash, or electronics. It was guns. Black, military-grade rifles wrapped in cloth. I froze. This wasn't just stolen property anymore. This was dangerous on a whole different level. I accidentally gasped aloud, and in that dead silent street it carried. The pit bull guy turned his head, scanning the shadows. For a second, I swore he was looking straight at me. My lungs locked up. Then the tall one called him, and they went back to work. But I knew if I kept this up, sooner or later, they'd notice me for real. Driving home that night, I couldn't stop shaking. I thought about quitting, about running away, finding some crappy job under the table, and pretending none of this happened. But then I remembered the look on that detective's face when he basically said I was disposable, and I remembered the cold click of those cuffs. No, I wasn't running, not this time. I texted Chris only for words, "They're moving guns now." He didn't reply. That night, lying awake in my crappy apartment, I realized something. I wasn't just some unlucky guy who got caught up in someone else's mess. I was in the middle of a story where the ending hadn't been written yet, and if I wanted it to end in my favor, I'd have to start playing a hell of a lot smarter. The following week felt like living with a loaded gun pressed to the back of my head. Every sound outside my apartment made me flinch. Every time I saw a black SUV, my stomach dropped. Because deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before they figured it out. I went back to work at the diner during the day, trying to look normal, slamming pancakes on tables, pouring coffee, smiling at truckers. But at night, my mind was glued to that storage unit. I'd seen enough crime movies to know that when guns were involved, the game was different. One night after my shift, I was walking home when I felt that tingle on the back of my neck, the sense you're being watched. I turned around fast. Empty street, a flickering streetlight, nothing. Still, I walked faster. 2 nights later, I parked near the unit again, except this time, something was off. The van was there, the guys were there, but they weren't unloading. They were standing around, smoking, laughing too loud, like they were waiting for something. And then, the pit bull guy, the same one I'd seen before, turned his head directly toward where I was parked. My stomach dropped. His lips curled into a grin. He pulled out his phone, and just like that, the floodlights above the unit switched on, lighting up the whole street like a football field. I panicked, threw the car into gear, tires screeching. I drove like hell, cutting through red lights, weaving through traffic until I lost them. Or at least, I hoped I did. When I got home, there was an envelope taped to my door. No name, no return address. Just my name, scrawled in thick black marker. I ripped it open with shaking hands. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It was me, sitting in my car across from the storage unit. My chest tightened, and my vision blurred. They knew. They'd known for a while. I stumbled into my apartment, locked the door, double-checked the windows, then sat on the floor staring at that photo. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was prey. The next morning, I went straight to the detective, slammed the photo on his desk. "They know I've been watching," I hissed. He studied it calmly, then leaned back, then stopped watching. I wanted to punch him. "Are you kidding me? They'll kill me if I back off now. I've seen too much," he sighed. "You wanted to play hero, Daniel. Welcome to the consequences." That was it. No help, no backup, just me. I walked out of that precinct angrier than I'd ever been in my life. If I wanted to survive, I had two choices: disappear or fight back. That night, I tried to disappear. Packed a duffel bag with some clothes, my old laptop, and the last of my cash. I drove out of the city, past the suburbs, into the dark, empty stretches of highway. But somewhere around 2 in the morning, I realized I wasn't running away. I was being pushed, herded, like a rat in a maze. And I hated being cornered. I pulled over at a gas station, slammed my hands on the steering wheel, and made a choice. If they wanted me scared, fine. But I wasn't going down quiet. The next day, I started digging hard. I searched public records on the storage unit, cross-checked license plates I'd memorized, even scrolled through social media until my eyes burned. That's when I found it. The man in the suit, the one I'd seen shaking hands at midnight, wasn't just some random. He was a city councilman, a freaking politician. I sat there staring at his photo online, my heart pounding. This wasn't just organized crime anymore. This was power, money, politics, the kind of mess that didn't just disappear. Later that night, as I was piecing together notes, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello," a low voice said. "You like taking pictures, Daniel?" My blood ran cold. Silence on my end. The voice chuckled. "Keep playing detective, and we'll make sure nobody ever finds you." Click. I dropped the phone like it was on fire. For the first time since this all began, I felt truly terrified. Not of jail, not of losing my job, but of never making it out alive. I sat there in the dark, shaking, realizing the truth. I wasn't just in over my head anymore. I was drowning, and the worst part, I had no idea who I could trust. They didn't trust me. That much was obvious from the moment I stepped into the dingy little back room of the pawn shop. The place reeked of cigarette smoke and old leather, the kind of smell that clings to your jacket long after you leave. Across from me sat a guy named Victor. Big, bald, with a scar running from his left ear down his jawline. He drummed his fingers on the desk between us, staring like he was trying to peel back my skin and see what was underneath. "So Daniel," he said finally, dragging out my name like it tasted sour. "You say you're good at moving things, huh? Quick, quiet, no questions." I nodded, keeping my hands flat on my thighs so he wouldn't see them shaking. "That's what I do." Victor grinned, but it wasn't friendly. "All right, time for a test." He snapped his fingers, and one of his guys brought out a small duffel bag. It looked way too light for its size, and when they placed it on the table, I felt my stomach twist again. I'd been here before: bags, deliveries, promises of no big deal, and last time, I nearly lost my freedom. Victor leaned forward. "Take this bag across town. Address is inside. Don't open it. Don't talk to anyone. Don't stop. If you get pulled over, well, let's just say it's your problem, not ours." I swallowed hard. "What's in it?" The room went silent. Even the guy by the door shifted uncomfortably. Victor tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "You asking questions now?" My mouth went dry. Every instinct screamed at me to backpedal. "No questions," I said quickly. "Just making sure I get it done right." Victor smirked again, tapping the bag. "Good answer." The drive felt like the longest of my life. Every red light, every passing siren made my pulse spike. I imagined cops pulling me over, yanking the bag from the seat, and throwing me face down on the asphalt. Worse, I imagined what Victor would do if I failed. When I finally pulled up to the address, a run-down house with peeling paint on the edge of town, my heart was pounding so hard it hurt. A man with a scruffy beard opened the door before I even knocked. He didn't say a word, just took the bag from my hands and shut the door again. That was it. No thanks, no handshake, no proof of what I'd just carried. For all I knew, it could have been drugs, cash, or something worse. On the drive back, I rehearsed what I'd say if they asked me how it went. Simple, steady, no slip-ups. But when I walked into that smoke-filled room again, Victor just chuckled. "You made it back. Most don't." He tossed me a wad of cash, maybe a few $100. "Welcome to the team, Daniel." And just like that, I was in. But as I counted the bills later in my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't some victory. It was a leash. They'd tested me, and now they owned me. Worse still, I knew the cops were out there, waiting for me to screw up again. If I went back to them now, told them everything, maybe they'd protect me. Maybe. Or maybe they'd just hang me out to dry. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just caught between criminals and cops. I was being pulled deeper into both worlds, and eventually, one of them was going to bury me. I should have walked away after that first job. But once they see you'll play along, they don't let go. Within days, Victor had me running deliveries, picking up envelopes, dropping off boxes. Always fast, always quiet. And then came the night I realized just how deep this thing went. It was close to midnight when Victor told me to meet him behind a diner off Route 45. The parking lot was empty except for a couple of rusty pickups and a squad car. Yeah, a squad car. My chest tightened instantly. Cops. This had to be a setup. Victor strolled up like nothing was wrong, cigarette dangling from his lips, and slapped the roof of the police car. "Daniel, meet Officer Reed." The cop who stepped out wasn't some stiff in uniform. He was older, maybe in his 50s, with thinning hair and eyes that looked like they hadn't seen sleep in weeks. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that made your skin crawl. "Victor speaks highly of you," Reed said, shaking my hand. His grip was firm, like he wanted me to know exactly how much stronger he was. I pulled my hand back quickly. "Nice to meet you, officer," Victor chuckled. "Don't let the badge fool you. Reed here's one of us. Keeps things smooth when people get too nosy." That's when it clicked. This wasn't just some gang moving stolen goods. They had cops in their pocket. People who could make evidence disappear, reroute patrols, maybe even bury cases before they made it to court. Reed leaned in close. "Your job's simple. Do what Victor tells you. Keep your mouth shut, and you'll never have to worry about sirens in your rear view. But if you decide to get clever," he patted the gun on his hip, "you won't like the ending." The way he said it made my blood run cold. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Later, back in my car, I sat there gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I wasn't just in over my head, I was drowning. The cops weren't watching from the shadows, waiting to bust this ring. They were part of it, which meant if I tried to go to the station, tried to tell anyone, I'd be walking into a trap. Victor texted me an hour later, "Good job tonight. Reed likes you. Big things ahead." I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. Big things ahead. Yeah, like prison or a bullet. For the next week, I played along, smiled when they paid me, kept my questions to myself. But every errand, every shady drop-off, I felt those crooked eyes on me. And at night, lying awake, I kept wondering, what the hell do I do now? If I run, they'll hunt me down. If I stay, I'm their puppet. And if I gamble on the feds or some honest cop, I might get silenced before I ever set foot in a courthouse. The walls were closing in. I'd been playing the role for weeks now, smiling when Victor laughed, nodding when Reed gave his thin-lipped orders, pretending I wasn't terrified every damn second. But the truth, I was done. If I didn't get out soon, I'd either end up in a ditch or behind bars for the rest of my life. The chance came on a rainy Friday night. Victor tossed me a small black duffel. One last drop tonight, Danny boy. Easy money. You'll like this one. I forced a grin. Where to? Downtown. High-rise condo. Guy on the 15th floor. Don't worry, he's expecting you. Yeah, that's what he always said. I drove off, windshield wipers squealing against the glass, heart hammering like a war drum. In the seat beside me, the duffel looked almost alive. I hadn't dared to open one of the bags before, but this time I couldn't resist. I pulled over in a deserted lot, checked my mirrors, then unzipped it. Inside wasn't cash, wasn't jewelry, wasn't stolen electronics. It was a stack of hard drives, each labeled, each with sticky notes full of names, dates, account numbers. This wasn't stolen stuff. This was stolen lives. Bank records, passwords, maybe entire identities. My blood ran cold. This was beyond me, beyond Victor, beyond Reed. Whoever was buying this had power. The kind of power that could erase someone off the map with a few keystrokes. That's when I made the call. I dialed a number I hadn't touched in years, my cousin Mike. He worked cybercrime for the FBI out of Philly. We weren't close, but desperate times. Daniel, his voice was cautious. Mike, I don't have time. I've got something. Hard drives. Dirty cops involved. I need out. There was a pause, long enough that I thought he'd hung up. Then, where are you? I rattled off the address of the condo building, voice shaking. He told me to go up, make the drop, act normal. Agents would be nearby. And Daniel, don't do anything stupid. Just get out alive. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like a trip to the gallows. My palms were slick, my chest tight. Every ding of the floor counter was a countdown to hell. I knocked. The door opened, and there stood Officer Reed. Right on time, he said, smiling that dead smile. My throat went dry. He took the bag from me, set it on a table, and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. You've done good work, kid. Real good. But here's the thing, we can't keep letting outsiders handle the crown jewels. He slid 1 glass toward me. So tonight, you make a choice. You're in for life, or you disappear. I stared at the glass. My cousin's words echoed in my head, don't do anything stupid. Then the door slammed open. FBI. Hands where I can see them. Chaos erupted. Reed reached for his gun. I ducked behind the couch as agents swarmed the room. Shouts, pounding boots, the deafening crack of a gunshot. When the smoke cleared, Reed was on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. Victor was face down in cuffs, screaming about lawyers. And me? I was just sitting there, shaking, hands in the air, heart about to explode out of my chest. Later, outside in the rain, Mike clapped a hand on my shoulder. You're lucky you called. Another week, and you'd be gone. They were already talking about cutting loose their drivers. I nodded numbly. So that's it? I'm free. He hesitated. Free? You'll testify. Go into protection. Maybe start over. But clean? Nobody walks out of this kind of mess clean. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed once, an unknown number. Just a single text, this isn't over. No name. No clue who sent it. But I knew, somewhere out there, the network still lived. Reed and Victor were just pawns, and I had just painted a giant target on my back. Me, lying awake, eyes wide open in the dark. The sound of rain outside, and the heavy, suffocating truth pressing down on me. I hadn't escaped. I'd only stepped into a bigger game.